XDefiant has finally launched. It is out. The servers are live. I'm not sure how stable they are. I've had some reports of people struggling to get into some matches, but that's not what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to go over your controller settings to hopefully help you dial in your aim inside of XDefiant. I'm gonna try and make this as quick as possible here, and this should be doable because 90% of these controller settings that affect your aim are preference based. They are settings that you should be jumping into the training room with and dialing in for you specifically. Button layout, stick layout, horizontal and vertical sensitivity, the sensitivity multipliers, dead zone, all of this is preference based. There really is only one major setting inside of these aim settings that I believe makes any difference, and that is the aim response curve type. The aim response curve type is where we start to get into the weeds a little bit with these settings here. I'm gonna go through each of these response curve types and then explain to you why I think linear is obviously the best. You have your standard response curve, which will reduce the effect of finer stick movements to improve aim control and increase the effect of large stick movements to improve look speed. This means when you are barely tapping on your stick, your sensitivity is going to be slower than when you are full bore sending your stick all the way to the left or to the right. When you have these response curve types that make your sensitivity different depending on how hard you're pushing on the thumbstick, what ends up happening is your muscle memory almost becomes locked to that game. You can still build up muscle memory, but XDefiant's standard response curve type is going to be slightly different than Apex Legends standard response curve type, or Fortnite's response, or COD's, or whatever. Whereas in linear, the aim rate speed is tied directly to stick movement with no dampening or boost based on your input value. This means that there's no differentiation with your horizontal or vertical sensitivity. When you push your sticks, you're gonna look a specific speed. What this ends up doing is locking your muscle memory to your controller rather than to the game, because linear is linear wherever you go. Now all you really need to dial in is your sensitivity settings. Personally, this is why I prefer linear. I run linear on every game that I play, but this is somewhat preference based. And then you have the reverse S curve, which is basically the exact opposite of the S curve. It's gonna boost small and large camera movements while reducing the effect of the moderate camera movements. Not a huge fan of either of the S curves. One other thing I did want to talk about though is this acceleration speed multiplier. This should not apply to the linear response curve type. This should only really affect the S curve and reverse S curve, and this will affect the boost speed that you get from those aim response curve types. But just in case this setting does affect linear, I've cranked it all the way down, because if I turn this up, we're then going to be looking at acceleration being added to my inputs, which throws off any of the muscle memory that we're learning and building up on. Like I said though, other than that, the rest of these settings are entirely preference based. Let me know down in the comments what response curve type you guys are using, as well as if you're using any sort of weird button or stick layouts. But really, that's all the information that I wanted to go over in this video. I hope you guys all have an amazing day. I'm out.